All right, y'all. It's time to put the haters to bed. Today, we go down the list on why the negative Nancy's need to get out of Minnesota. That's happening right now on Viking Hot Takes after the roll in. Dave, let's go.
Let's go a Viking on Viking Hot Takes.
Welcome to the fast moving Minnesota Vikings talk show, Viking Hot Takes. We've got Eric J. Thompson from Daily Norseman. We've got me, Flip Mozzie. We've got 6 questions, 20 minutes, and the fans with the answers in the comments. Eric, are you ready for this?
I think so. My face is a little cold, especially compared to the last couple of weeks. I had the beard and then the mustache. Now this is stage 3. I'm in summer mode, but yeah, I think so. I think where things are starting to take shape. The Vikings got a player. They got a big free agent player, so we can talk about that. And there's
Mhm.
probably some more moves to come. I think that'll probably be the biggest move. But yeah, things are happening. The offseason's chugging along. We're getting closer and closer to the draft. It's fun.
Yeah, like you said, big splash signing. We got Viking Jerome, Jeffrey Klein, Nick Howard, a bunch of our favorite Vikings fans in the chat ready to answer these questions with us. So, Dave, put the time up on the screen and let's get to it. We start with Zadarius Smith. It's a 3-year, $47 million contract. Eric, what are your thoughts on our new edge rusher?
Well, that's what we know about the contract so far. It's up to $47 million. It's 3 years, 42, and I don't think the year by year breakdown. At least I haven't seen it personally, but I think overall that's very fair market value for a guy that has shown he can be one of the better the more prolific pass rushers in the league. And I mean, if you look at the money that guys like TJ Watt and Joey Bosa and Myles Garrett and Khalil Mack and Max Crosby and even Von Miller got recently, 3 years, 42 million, that seems like a pretty good deal, even if it can push up to 47 million on incentives. And of course, I mean, like, I'm not saying that Zadarius Smith is those guys, but at the
Mm-hmm.
rate he is compared to those guys, that's a pretty good deal, I think, overall. And like, of course, like the Vikings' other prolific pass rusher, he missed most of last year. I think he had one regular season game and the one playoff game that the Packers had. But in the two
Yeah.
Pro Bowl seasons before that with Green Bay, he played in every single game. And in the 4 years before that, when he was playing for the Ravens, he played at least, I think, 13 games a season. So like, he's shown that he's been durable. Bad luck last year, so I don't think that's a huge concern. And I'd much rather have what I think it was 4 years, 35 million that he originally agreed
Mm-hmm.
to go back to Baltimore. I mean,
Right.
that contract would be nicer than 342. But again, I think it's a pretty
Right.
good. If he can return to form, I'd really like the deal. And I think we've spent a lot of this offseason already on this show, even talking about, we were wondering what the future is going to be for Daniil Hunter and basically who the hell is going to line up on the other side of him. And this past week, I think both of those questions kind of got answered. Like that, there's sounds like a Hunter extension might be in the works, but they restructured it to free up some salary cap, and now they brought in Zadarius Smith, who won't just line up on the other side of Daniil Hunter. He's proven in Green Bay and in the scheme that he can kind of line up all over, especially on third downs. He can be that kind of wild card and rush the passer from a lot of different areas depending on the matchup. And my favorite part of it is it made Packers fans salty, and it sent them scrambling for all the excuses of why the team didn't really want him back and he was
Yeah.
injury prone and they didn't need him.
It really
They
is
kept
that
Preston Smith.
simple.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
mean, that's always a nice bonus. But again, he's a really good player, and I think it's at a pretty good price. So, yeah, overall, that's great. There's still a lot of work to do on this roster, but I think that's a step in the right direction. What do you think?
Yeah, like you said, you hit all the points. Number one for me is the discount. And we have a lot of fans this week talking about, oh, the injury history. Oh, is he really going to be effective as he moves into his 30s? This is the best signing the Vikings have made all season long. We were waiting for this. We were begging them to make a splash. And let's just say what it is. The number one thing the haters need to stop doing is stop attributing this entire offseason to the big KC. I get it. You didn't like the Kirk Cousins signing, but if you're unable to separate the rest of the Vikings offseason and understand that they are making separate but good moves, if you're going to carry that smell of the Kirk Cousins extension onto good moves like this, good moves like signing Jordan Hicks, good moves like giving Adam Thielen a pay cut, then that's on you. You don't need to be that negative. You can view these things separately, and you can realize that the Vikings do some good things and some bad things at the same time. Kirk Cousins didn't stop Justin Jefferson from breaking out. Kirk Cousins didn't stop Eric Kendricks from putting together Pro Bowl season after Pro Bowl season. So yes, Zadarius Smith can come here. He's a scheme fit. He knows these coaches. He's a character guy. And the middle of our defense right now is literally Daniil Hunter, Jordan Hicks, Eric Kendricks, and Zadarius Smith. Vikings fans should be excited about that. That's
I
what I
mean,
got
what
to
I
say.
got the most what I got the most out of that is that Flip is Kirk Cousins' number one fan. But
No,
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 I
I
it's
hated the
no,
Kirk Cousins signing.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. I'm just giving you crap about that. But like, that's a very fair point to bring up during all of these conversations, is that it don't like on either side, don't paint anything with the Kirk Cousins brush, like to argue for and against stuff. Like, you can throw all the stats up about Kirk Cousins on the offense and all this stuff, it doesn't tell the whole story. And the same thing with all the salary cap stuff. Like, oh, his contract is absolutely crippling the team. They can't make any other moves. That's not true either. So like, you take every, like, I really like that approach of, like, you can take everyone individually. You can take these moves. Yes, they all are connected because it is a salary cap league, and that it does prevent you from going out and making maybe some other big free agent splash signings. But yes, I think the Vikings fans should be happy about this move. Zadarius Smith makes the defense
Yes.
better. The defense needs to get better. There's still a couple places they need to get better. We'll talk about that later in the show. But yes, it's a step in the right direction. But that's what brings me to my first question. It looks like we're not doing the rebuild, the reset. That's off the table now. Like this from
Hmm.
this the moves
Hmm.
they made this week. It's clear that they're not doing that. Is retooling the better strategy than just hitting the reset button?
So the better strategy, this is a really good question. I don't think it's the better strategy. I think we can say ideally they would have entered this offseason, they would have traded away Kirk Cousins, they would have reset the roster, but that wasn't available to them. They didn't have the trade offers on the table to go down plan A. So the last thing
At
you
least
can
at least
do,
what was reported, because we don't like maybe they did get offers that we don't know about because people jumped down our throats about
right,
that last week. But yes, from what we heard, it doesn't
but
seem
you
like there was a ton. Yeah.
and you look at what Matt Ryan got, just like a third round pick. Nobody in the Vikings fan base would have been okay with that for Kirk
No.
Cousins. So I mean that if that's the alternative, then yes, the what they're doing now is the better strategy. I mean, it's a plan B, and it shows that they're aware and they're going to be savvy about how they treat these moves. And that's more important than any given one move or one retool strategy for me.
Yeah, and
What do you think?
I think personally, I think the rebuild, the reset path, that's a clearer path. I think it's
Yeah.
easier to arrive at. I think, hitting that reset button, jettisoning most of these 1-year deals that the team made last year, getting younger and getting more cap flexible, getting more draft capital instead of extending and restructuring some of these vets that are kind of getting older, they're in their 30s that have been great
Yeah.
players, but maybe at the end of these contracts might not be worth that. I think that's probably an easier sell to the fan base short term, because it's like, hey, here
Right.
we got a new regime, these new guys in town, we're way different, we're going to we're going to do everything differently. But as we've seen it with several franchises throughout the league, sometimes when you hit that reset button, the screen just flashes like when your Nintendo started going out when you were little, like that was like it doesn't do anything, like it just keeps on going over and over. We've
Right.
seen that from a lot of franchises, and there's no guarantee that rebuilds work. Like when you tear it down, we've seen Jacksonville try to do that basically every single year since 2017, and they aren't any closer, I don't think. But but we don't really have to worry about that now, because the moves they made and the comments that Adofo-Mensah made in his press conference this week, I think the catchphrase was competitive rebuild. And that's kind of, again, that might sound familiar to a lot of the Spielman, like the previous regime. It's like, well, what's so different? I think, it's a tougher needle to thread, that's for sure. And it's one the previous
Yeah.
regime kind of tried to do the last 4 years without a ton of success. And,
Right.
but like we talked about last week, most of the moves that they've made thus far don't go beyond the next couple of seasons. There's not a whole lot on the books after 2023. So the short term.
They still have that flexibility. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
this isn't, they're dooming themselves forever. But so the short-term strategy is kind of starting to take shape a little bit. There's still obviously a lot to do, but I think it's going to take some time before we really see what. Again, we're a month or two into the Adofo-Mensah KOC, the new regime. So we're going to give them some time here, but I think it's going to take some time before we really see what the real long-term approach is there. So, but yeah, I think it's
Agreed.
a higher degree of difficulty what they're doing right now, because you have to hit on a lot of these moves because there isn't as much wiggle room. But again, I understand why they're doing it, because hitting the reset button is no guarantee, and you can just be bad for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are creating cap flexibility. So
Yep.
let's go. It might be a 30-minute show, guys. I'm not going to apologize. Kwesi's going to take his time, so I'm going to take my time too.
Hey, we'll,
Eric,
we'll get in.
what's the biggest remaining need?
Well, okay, I'll go a little quicker on this one since we're almost halfway already. Because I mean, those first two were really good, meaty questions. But I think we talked about the interior offensive line last week, and I won't beat that one to death again, especially because there's nothing really new to report there. I mean, but JC Treader, you around? We're still here. You want to come to Minnesota? Like it's nice here when you compare it to Cleveland, at least, right? Like it's come on down, like that's fine. But I mean, right now it has to be cornerback, just because of the volume that's probably needed there. Like there's a couple good players here
Yeah.
on the roster. I really like Dantzler. I think he's going to really keep on developing. And Harrison Hand is whatever, but like I don't want him to be like
Right.
the second corner right now. Like there is a
Right.
need for multiple cornerbacks and effective cornerbacks and probably starting cornerbacks outside of Dancer, I really don't trust anyone that's on the roster to be a full-time starter and not get roasted by the opponents. I know I've joked on Twitter. It's like, well, you don't need cornerbacks when no one else in the division has wide receivers right now. But I think the Packers will probably pick up a couple in the draft or free agency. So that's definitely it's. I don't know where else you can go. That's the biggest need right now is you got to fill out that secondary with quality players, and I think it's going to take a combination of not just the draft because I think you're going to have to use a lot of the draft capital to get a couple hits on that, but probably try to find some good bargain uh, veteran guys that can bring in. The Patrick Peterson has made it known that he really wants to be back, but at what price? I don't
Mm-hmm.
think the $10 million is worth it for sure. But like maybe if they can come to some sort of agreement, I'd probably welcome him back just for his leadership at least. With is going to be and what's going to be another young cornerback room. So that's it for me. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty cut and dry for me. Do you have another position, or you got on the same boat?
Yeah, I actually disagree. And this is the second reason why the haters need to get out of the state of Minnesota. Because this
Whoa.
entire off this entire offseason, we've been criticizing the Vikings for not tanking hard enough. And now we're going to turn around and tell them that we need to sign two veteran cornerbacks and draft a cornerback in the first round just so we can compete. Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. You're playing both sides of the story just to hate on what the team is doing. Let's be honest where we are. The cornerback room is a 2-year fix. You are not, whoa, Mike DiNardo.
Oh,
You are
geez,
not
thanks.
you're not going to fix this cornerback room in 1 year. And I don't think they're trying to fix the cornerback room in 1 year. So if they sign a veteran, great. If they put it on the 3-year contract, but Harrison Hand, you're just going to have to be excited to find out if he can play football or not. Cam Bynum,
Okay.
same thing. You're just going to have to be excited
Oh,
if they're
we'll
reliant
find him.
on a third
He's
cornerback
sleeping.
to be nickelback.
Okay.
And
All
so
right.
yeah,
All
I
right.
don't agree with the sentiment that we have to get a veteran cornerback because again, we're not necessarily trying to field a contender in 2022. That's what
Oh,
the fans want, right?
well, I don't know. The fans want one or the other. They don't want the wishy-washy 8-9, 9-8. But I think what you're saying is we might be there for 2022 before we can kind of advance out of it. Is that what you're getting at here? Because
Yes.
that's okay.
That's
Because
that's
I don't.
that's what I'm saying.
All right. And that might be extremely frustrating for a lot of Vikings fans who wanted out of purgatory, but you might take a year to get out of purgatory. I'm with you there. All right. My
Yeah.
second question for you. This is a fun thought exercise. I didn't do the F Mary Kill thing that you've done the last couple of weeks because you covered both sides.
Yeah.
But my second question for you is if you could take one player off the Bears or the Lions roster to help the Vikings this year, who would it be? Packers, they have lots of choices and they have a couple very
Yeah.
obvious choices.
Yeah.
But the Bears and Lions, not as obvious. Where would you go?
So first, I think if I could put one team onto the Bears, it would be Dakota Dozier, is how I would go about it. But
We already
you asked
did.
me to.
Yay!
We already did. We did it.
Yeah.
To take one for. I'll be quick here. I think the Bears. I'm gonna go with Jalen Johnson, young corner on a rookie deal. You know he's solid. He's
Mm,
proven. You compare him with Cameron Dantzler. It's not anything great, but like all the other signings, it's a guy who's on a cheap rookie deal. The
right.
Lions, I'm gonna have a little more fun with the Lions, and I'm gonna go with TJ Hawkinson, who again another person on a rookie
Ooh.
deal. We don't really know what we have on in our tight end room right now because Irv Smith is coming off injury, and this Nick Munt guy, again, another cheap player. Let's see what he can do. But TJ Hawkinson, I feel like his career is getting wasted in Detroit, and I would love to pair him with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne.
Oh, that would be murderous having both of those two, having him and Smith. I like that idea. All right. Well,
Yeah.
for the Bears,
Yeah.
they had two easy choices. Like I would have gone with like Allen Robinson or Akeem Hicks, but Robinson's already on the Rams,
Mm-hmm.
and Hicks probably isn't coming back. I mean, I guess I could technically say Hicks just to get him off the Bears so he doesn't kill us twice a year. But I mean, after that, it's not really that great. Like you can point to Fields because he's on a cheap deal and he probably could end up being really good, but he isn't better than Cousins right now, and he probably just wasted a rookie deal. So I like Montgomery, but not more than Cook. I guess Robert Quinn is okay. Like Eddie Jackson, if we can transport him back to 2018, I mean, like it's kind of slim pickings with the Bears. That was hard. I like Jason's
The
actually the
NFC
one I
North
did
is
have.
rough right now.
It really is. I would take Mooney off of the Bears' hands, like Jason had suggested in
Okay.
the comments. I think that's pretty good. He'd make a nice compliment to that wide receiving core. Not a huge need, but I think he'd be good. And Lions, I mean, there's a pretty good amount of choices there. I'd probably pick off their offensive line. I mean, Frank Ragnow, how big of an upgrade would that be at center? Like he was one of the best. Like I'd even take
Yeah.
Vaitai and was it Jonah Jackson, the other guard? Like both of those, you could plug and play in with what they have.
Anybody.
Big need possessions. Right, exactly. And like I really like I think Jeffrey Okudah is still going to be good. Like obviously he has not had a great start to his career, but I think I mean he was way too damn good at Alabama or in college to be what he has so far. I think that I'd take him on the heartbeat with the Vikings corner situation. Maybe Mike Hughes. No, I'm just kidding. but hey, we get to see Mike Hughes twice a year, so that'll be fun. All right, yeah, that's I would stick. It's just weird that there's not a ton to pick from those two teams. All right, what's your last one?
NFC North. I like that Darnell movie pick. Okay, third question: is 7 draft picks enough? I'm telling you right now, Dave, we're going over, so extend the clock.
No, let's keep going. We can figure it out. Okay, it is if you use them correctly. We got to stick to the format with the people want to get in and out. So it is if you. I mean, like Spielman's whole thing was take as many swings as possible. He'd always want to get to double digits. But like, is it that exciting when you get sixth and seventh round draft picks and maybe one or two of them gets a rotational thing? Like that's not that much fun. And 7 is technically the default. You're supposed to get there are 7 rounds of the draft. You're supposed to get one each round. And that's so yes, it is enough. But it does leave less room for swings and misses, and that's kind of. But even with how many chances that Spielman had in the previous regime, there are way too many misses. So they need to make them count. That's especially those ones at the top. You need to get some impact players. If you're going to do this competitive rebuild, as Adofo-Mensah called it, you need a couple of these extra guys to step in right away, because that was the kind of the downfall of the Spielman regime last year. Is it was Darisaw and basically not much else in that rookie class. And Darisaw was hurt for the first half of the year. They had 11 picks. Basically no one did much. Bynum had those couple games where he filled in. That was it. So yeah, it's enough, but you got to make them count. And this is an important draft. The first one is always extremely important for a new GM. So he's got to hit at least on a couple of these. Otherwise, it's the questions are going to start sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and the fans are right. It is 8 draft picks. I think
right.
those are all really good. Those are all good comments. I agree with you that 8 probably should be enough. 3 of them are 6th-round picks, so we can't actually trade down to generate more picks unless it's like our only premium pick. And if they get 2 good picks out of this, that is, if they get 2 starters out of this draft, that's an amazing success with only 8 picks and 3 in the 6th round. To me, this is another thing about the Darius Smith signing, because sure, it is an edge-heavy draft, but we're not the only team that needs an edge rusher, and we don't have a lot of picks at the top of that draft. So to go into that draft trying to find an edge and not allowing yourself to have flexibility, that is, again, I think that's what informs what the Vikings are doing right now. They're not going to be able to get a whole new core of young players in this draft. They just don't have the picks to do it. So that's why you need to go into free agency and find new core players. Find a Jordan Hicks. They've talked about character with all of these signings. And so just remember when they're making these moves that it's not going to be your typical Rick Spielman draft. I think fans should definitely focus on that and say, okay, this is the new core of our team.
I think fans are counting on that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have 5 seconds.
Okay, this is just bonus then. We'll go quick because we still want to get this one's a fun one anyway because this was a fun week of Minnesota sports. The Wild are making deals. The Twins are signing Carlos Correa. They're fine. They still need some pitching, but they're fun. And the Vikings are making moves. Which Minnesota team? And the Timberwolves, they're not terrible anymore. They're in the playoffs right now. Which team is the most exciting for you right now?
This is the number 3 reason why Vikings fans need to get out of the state of Minnesota. Why are we hating on the Vikings when these other teams are not actually doing anything exciting, not actually doing anything that they've done before?
Nothing?
But we got to pretend. No.
Wearing your Dodgers hat. They just buy their team every year.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, how many first-round playoff losses did the Minnesota Wild have? I mean, did the CBA agreement get rid of the New York Yankees? Do the Twins not have to play them anymore? Because those same roadblocks are there. So you can't tell me that you're scared of the Vikings going 8-9 again, but be excited that the T-Wolves are the 7th seed in the NBA West. Like, what is that? It doesn't make sense.
Oh, spoken like a true California, Flip. I love it. I just think it's with the last several years of sports in this state, it's fun. I think the Wild are going to make a little bit of a run. I'm not going to say that they're going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals yet. I think they win at least one, probably 2 playoff rounds. They're going to turn it around. And the Timberwolves just being in the playoffs, that's a win. Just and finish off these stupid Lakers. It's right now they're lining up to play the Lakers in that first round, well, I think they get 2 chances at it. But like if they end up playing the Lakers, finish them off, put Russell Westbrook away. Let's have something to celebrate with that team.
You're a glutton for punishment, Eric. Look, being a Vikings
Minnesotan,
fan,
of course, by nature.
You are a fan of a heartbreak franchise. That gives you free license to jump on the bandwagon in every other sport. So use that license. Cheer for the Dodgers. Cheer for the Vegas Golden Knights.
I'm born and raised Minnesotan. I'm born into it.
Why
in my
would
blood.
you compound your heartbreak? You don't have to do it. I'm just telling you, you have a choice. You have a choice, and you can be easygoing and optimistic. That optimism will spread from the team you don't care about to the team you do care about. Just think about it.
Hey, how about these Loons? The Loons are undefeated, baby. Watch. I went to their game on Saturday. So there we go. Yeah.
I do like those Loons. Cheer for the Milwaukee Bucks. Be the heel.
Oh, well, I like Giannis. Giannis is nice. But all right, okay. That we went way over. I appreciate everyone hopping on, and the comments were great. Again, I know people miss the mustache. I miss the mustache, but again, I like being married as well, so I had to get rid of it. We'll see. It'll make an appearance again, I promise.
Yeah, and thank you for suffering through my Wi-Fi last week. I can't guarantee that was the last time it'll happen, but it's great just to see the fans back in action on the pod. We'll keep on going as the moves keep on coming this offseason. Dave, what you got?
Well, first off, while we were in the show, news broke. And you want positivity? The Zadarius Smith contract is full of it. It looks to be basically a 1-year deal for $9.5 million, which isn't a whole lot of money for a top-line defensive end. They have by the 5th day of next year to see if they want to go for the 2nd year. That would be $22 million. Still, I think, a reasonable price. And then again, they have the option on the 3rd year at $20. If everything pans out, everybody stays healthy, and Meet at the Quarterback becomes, the sequel. So
and the cap goes up, goes up. All right.
And this was a brilliant signing when you look at those numbers and what it allows the Vikings to do, because they can get out of it starting next year at any time and not cost them extra money.
There you go.
Rob Brzezinski is a genius.
And we still got Rob, baby. Maybe I'll grow out the mustache. I see y'all in the comments. Until next time, Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.